everyone, and happy Holi, by the way. So, Neeraj, thank you for joining me on stage.
Pleasure.
So, I don't know, I have a lot of things to talk about because the topic is like future of communications beyond PR and comms, etc. So,
Anything under the sun.
so tell me, let me kick off with a question, and then we can, take on from there. Your career spanned like journalism to Comm, right? So let's start from what are the changes you've seen and in your journey to where we are today, and then let's talk way forward.
It started off in 2004. There have been changes, but I would say sporadic in pockets. I'll share some data points. I mean, you'll be compelled to agree. Industry has changed in some ways. The fact that I'm sitting here wearing a nice suit in front of you, which means I can afford a nice suit, which wasn't perhaps the case 25 years back. Right? So there have been changes in pockets. Now look at the industry, the macro level. The industry today, correct me if my data is my information is wrong, 24 to 2500 crore. That is the amount of billing that agencies derive from the clients, correct?
How much?
2500 crore?
Broadly, yeah.
2500 crore. Now, we have 8,000 listed companies in India. I did a back of the envelope calculation. It worked out about 33,000 per month is what typically companies spend on what is called PR. I don't like this word. That's what we spend. 2,500 crore. Globally, it's advertising. Juxtapose this figure with advertising. It's about 200,000, 100,000 in India. That's the advertising spend. Works out to about 2.5%. Globally, it's about 3.1%. $800 billion works out to about whatever, you can do your maths. I'm not saying it should be as large as this, but I'm saying there was potential. There is potential for us to get closer. 3 companies that I worked with together, 2 companies, Reliance and HDFC Bank, they make about 1.5 lakh crore profit. India's top 100 companies combined revenue is 60 lakh crore. Typically, you spend about 4 to 8% on marketing globally. Out of that, 4% gets spent on what is called public relations. These are the figures, and I thought I'll just place it in front of you for consideration. Nothing right or wrong, but it's something that should force us to think.
Thanks. Good data points. The way I would love to do this session, make it a bit more interactive.
Absolutely.
If any of you have questions, please do ask, right? And we can stop and answer those questions. So think about it in the next couple of minutes. If anybody has questions, please ask a question on the future of this industry, which I think the future is very bright, by the way. So I come from a company that is called V Communications, parent company. And we do a report called The Future of Comms every year. We did this one this year as well, very recent. And some of the trends that came out, some of the trends that you probably discussed during the course of the day today, but they range from no discussion is possible without AI, definitely one trend. How Gen Z is consuming content was one of the key trends that came out, and I thought we can pick up on that because content has been something which has been very critical since you've been working in this space as well, and targeting a certain group of people. So I think shrinking newsrooms and expanding digital frontiers, they're redefining journalism and comms broadly, right? And Gen Z and Alpha consume content differently, relying on more social-first platforms for confirmation, right? So how do you build trust with this new generation?
You'll have to allow me to disagree, Nitin. The journalism, of course, has changed. Journalism hasn't changed. The basics of journalism hasn't changed. What has changed in the way, your audiences are consuming your content,
Correct.
right? So wherever you have your audience, ensure that your content reaches. That's happening. Whether it's CNBC or an Economic Times, they are doing it. And I think more or less they have the reach today. They can claim that they reach out to every, slice of the audience. Coming back to the way this new generation consumes content, it's very interesting. I have got a 23-year-old son and a daughter. They're as well informed, perhaps more informed than I am. But unfortunately, the information doesn't go beyond a certain, depth. That's something that I find missing. The reading has, got reduced or limited to the 4-inch, whatever the 4-inch screen is offering you. But that's what it is. You have to accept. Nothing right or wrong. You have to accept this as a fact and design your communication strategy. Whether you are a journalist or a communications person, at the end of the day, you're communicating. You have to ensure you see where your audience is sitting, ensure that it reaches in the form, in the time that he wants to consume it. It's Instagram, so you can't write long form, prose. So media has also learned this. Maybe the process of learning has been a little slow, but it's happening.
So how do you build trust in this group of people?
Trust, whose? Brand's trust?
Yeah, amongst the Gen Z or Gen Alpha. Like you said, your 23-year-old son, yeah? Is there loyalty?
No, there's no loyalty. I agree. But loyalty's definition has changed. Loyalty, used to have a different time frame during our times. And it's now perhaps reduced to a day, maybe a week. I don't know. The Gen Z, this new generation, is the generation that perhaps doesn't like buying homes. What does a home seller do? Right? They have chosen to live their life a little, in a way. You understand, you have to figure this out. Nothing changes. The basics of communication doesn't change. Basics of journalism doesn't change. What changes is the audience and his, consumption habits. You be in sync with it, I don't think you need to worry.
If anybody has a question, please do raise your hand. I'll keep reminding you for that. One of the trends so I was seeing the topics outside which are being discussed today in the day, and one of the trends that nobody really speaks about a lot, which is really impacting our industry, is actually geopolitics. And especially with the way the world is changing and the world is aligning so very differently, right? And that is, and I just wanted your views on it. What do you think, and how can communicators be on top of or change with adapt to the changing geopolitics in today's day and age?
For the benefit of the audience, as I speak to you, I'm doing a course from London School of Economics on geopolitics. Obviously I had time, but it's not time that's forcing me to do this. Coming back to your question, Nitin, communication has to have a purpose. We do not communicate in isolation. Corporate communication is not in isolation. The work that you do in isolation. What is the purpose? The purpose is to ensure that the brand that you represent is seen, is spoken, is felt the way you want the world to, right? That's the intent. Otherwise, why communicate? Communication is no longer limited to just communication. Your scope, your KRA has to widen, grow into encompassing this. It's very fashionable to say that I'm the brand custodian, reputation custodian. I am yet to find one CV or one job profile which is posted which says you will be the custodian of the corporate reputation. I have had to fight for this. It's not given to you on a platter. So once you become the custodian of the reputation of the corporate that you represent, then everything. You cannot operate in isolation. What's happening in India, you must know, because that's the macro, that's the environment. Globally, what is happening in Ukraine, US, it's just not a bit of piece of news for us, sitting in the drawing room and entertaining. It has repercussions for India, and it has repercussions for the company that you represent that's based out of India. Either it will have business with US or any US partners or, foe, It'll have some dealings with, the world is intertwined today. You cannot say that, I'm very good not knowing this. Geopolitics is absolutely central to your knowledge. You're in the business of advising the senior management or the leadership or the chairman, whoever you report to. How will you advise? I'm not saying you're the only one who knows this or who's supposed to know this. But it's very, very critical for us to know what's happening globally, what's happening in the immediate environment, because that's the environment your brand is operating in. Anybody having any disconnect, please raise your hand. That's how Nitin said this, it has to be an exchange. And what I'm saying is, doesn't have to be, perceived as cast in iron. So please have your view, express. I hope I answered.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think there are many examples of brands that have today, if you're communicating, an example that comes to mind is McDonald's, when they communicated about, serving meals to the Israeli army and how they were, I won't say trolled, but they were attacked on social media. And not only in the Middle East, but also in different countries, including India, right? So what you do in one part, you have to understand the larger geopolitics because your brand can get hurt. So you have to be very cognizant of that and make sure that you understand the variables around. And it's not, and when you look at the topic about the future of comms, I think geopolitics is here to stay. The changing nature of geopolitics is here to stay now. And it's going to be a lot of inconsistency as we go along. Corp was very important till last year, not very important now with the US coming out of it, right? If you noticed, in Dubai, every top leader was present. In Baku this year, I don't remember how many US leaders, global CEOs were actually there. Not many, probably just a couple of them. So that is the difference from one year to the other, to be honest. So geopolitics being one, I think let's talk about AI, which is the elephant in the room, which always has to be spoken about. I have my own views about, and I think I heard Arpana in the last session, we talked about, not about artificial intelligence, but it's more about human intelligence. So the human intelligence piece is not going away. But how will AI change the way the comms in the future will be done?
The way it will change the way a lawyer operates, a doctor operates, somebody else like this. We are, I treat ourselves as them. Human intelligence is finally that is, going to be the one deciding this. Machine can only help you become better, more efficient, save time. That's all. Machine cannot replace you. The moment you are replaceable by a machine, there's a problem then. A machine can write better than me. Those people have to worry. If I'm being paid 30 lakh by a corporate just to write a press release, there is a problem. Right? Machine can write as well. I mean, I'm not saying it will write as well as some of us do, but that's a replaceable part of our job. So if you've been harping on this or you write well, then you take to full-scale professional writing and start making money out of it. Companies will not pay 35 lakh rupees just because you write well. That is a change that I have seen happening. Other aspects, Nitin, sorry, I've heard AI, it's very fashionable to talk. I have not come across too many evidences or instances where, in our space, AI is, actually applied. Let's first develop use cases. These are the 3, 4, 5 areas. Sit with the AI folks, technology folks. Let them design something, develop something. Otherwise, it's fashionable, it's fad. A lot of us talk about AI. I've not seen too many examples. Anybody can have a disagreement, please.
No, I don't.
And I can split up. I can divide the work that we do, listening, right? There are 3, 4 aspects of our job. The entire value chain of reputation management. It starts with listening first. You must know what is being said or talked about your brand. Correct? Right or wrong? जोर से बोलिए, otherwise मैं बकबकी करता रहूँगा यार. Right? तो पहला चीज तो आपको वो है. वहाँ पे आपको मशीन चाहिए. टूल ही मेजर करेगा ना. अभी तो टूल अवेलेबल है. यूज How many companies are using tool? There are companies, I know of dear friend of mine who runs this company that is perhaps the largest, employs 230 people doing just this. They're not in the news tracking business. Clip आपने track किया और भेज दिया ऊपर में CMO को और CEO को वो पढ़ लिया काम खत्म. They actually do analysis of this. I can tell you no company wants to pay them more than 2 lakh a month. Right? So 2400 crore जो हमने आपको बोला वो सिर्फ एक जगह limited नहीं है, हर जगह है. So this is one area where there is a tool that exists but companies are not willing to pay. I don't know, maybe he needs to perhaps market himself a little better. There is another aspect जहाँ कि आप आपको पता चल गया कि साहब ये आपके ब्रांड की स्टैंडिंग यहाँ है. This is how the public perceives your brand. You're using social tools, you're using, to meet people to know where your brand stands, how people are talking about your brand. आपने जानकारी मिल गई कि साहब your brand is a 59 on 100 brand. Right? It's not a Tata 92 on 100 brand. Unfortunately, we don't have any such score. You should. So 92 on 100 brand, 49 on 100 brand. Now, how do I make this 49 60? 60 is the pass marks. Right? पहले आपने सुन लिया, पता चल गया कि साहब this is where I stand. Now, what do I do to improve this 49 to 60? You do some things, get media story written, यहाँ वहाँ आपने बात किया, आपने senior leadership को आपने present किया, whatever. A lot of these tools. So there are tools available. Let's first develop use cases, sit with the technology folks to say this is doable, and then we can start talking. साहब हम लोग AI use करते हैं. मेरे हिसाब से फिलहाल ज़्यादा use मुझे दिखा नहीं देता.
I think agencies are
Little ahead.
Yeah, they are using tools. Some are using less, some are using more. I think that's the thing. But more importantly, I think there are two elements to that. One is being transparent with your clients that you're using the tool, right? I was sitting with a client yesterday and we showed a campaign which was AI generated, and we did say it's AI generated, right? And similarly, some people, we have to also understand what are the ethics behind using AI, right? How much of data can we use or not use? That's a very important element of.
If I can come in, Nitin, you had a question, perhaps I did not answer. Earlier, आपने पूछा था, एक सवाल पूछा था, ethics से related था. Now, AI can be used to generate content. The question is credibility, trust, right? Trust, right? I mean, a tool can be made to sound like Amir Khan or anybody, but the trust. So I should not, as a brand, indulge in anything that jeopardizes my brand reputation or my standing in the eye of the public. Ethics, again, it's related, right?
Totally. The other trend that we are seeing, or we're going to see more of in the future, is around misinformation. I mean, we talked about geopolitics. One of the outcomes of that has been the fact that several more social media platforms are not doing content moderation anymore, right? Including Meta, which means that if misinformation, if any, has to be corrected by you and me, right? And it's easier to spread misinformation than to curb it, by the way. So I actually do feel that we as communicators will have a much far greater role in fact-checking and correcting misinformation than we've had in the past. That I see that as a trend that may come up in the future. I don't know what you feel about it.
Again, you'll have to allow me to differ. Media has, come back into its own. When I say media, I mean traditional media. The traditional media. Whatever Ranveer Alhabadias of the world are fine. I mean, they make you laugh, smile, and they entertain you. But when it comes to veracity, what do? First thing you do is open Times of India or Economic Times. These are just hypothetical names I'm taking, or a business standard. And to validate what's been happening on social media in the last 12 hours, right or wrong? Or you go to Allahabadia.
But the point is, how many people actually validate, show of hands, how many people, I'm talking to Gen Z here, actually read a physical newspaper? So, 4 लोग हैं यहाँ पर.
Our generation, yeah, correct. No, that's very sad. Correct.
So therefore, how many people will actually
you're right.
validate it?
You're right.
Because not many people will get a video on their WhatsApp message. They'll see that say, हो सकता है.
Absolutely. ये तो risk है. ये बिल्कुल आपने सही बोला और ये risk है which we need to find a way to counter. By the time Times of India has reached your doorsteps, an opinion has been formed. But thankfully, This has lasted only 12 hours. Now the challenge is to make the youngsters read Times of India or any paper to change his opinion. But that's a challenge, I agree.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Thank you. Thank you for being a patient audience.